Greetings, YouTube! The Doctor is in, and welcome to the channel that takes power gaming to the next level. Today on the Doctor Spell Prognosis, we are talking about the spell Harm, a must-have for clerics to do decent damage at range. We are giving this spell a grade of a B+ for three primary reasons that it's not getting an A. One, it's a con save. Two, it's only usable by clerics. And three, it's not able to be upcast. There's no upcast options for this. But first, don't forget to hit that subscribe button. Don't forget to hit the like button. If you have any questions or comments, please leave a question or comment. And don't forget to hit that notification bell so you know when I've got another video out. All right, we're giving this a B+. On average, this does about 49 points of damage on a failed save and 24 points of damage on a pass save. It is on par for damage for a 6th level spell. Again, it's a 6th level spell, and we're in the 6th level spells. That's what we're talking about. It is only usable by clerics. It takes one action to cast it. It has a range of 60 feet, which is a really good range. Verbal and somatic components. That's awesome. It's not a concentration spell, so you can use it in conjunction with some of your other concentration things, and that is a good use of things. So, you unleash a virulent disease on a creature that you can see within range. Now, that is a lot of the first sentences of these spells are flavor. But this says that you release a disease on a creature. The big question that I have with this, and this is not answered in things like Sage Advice, and we're going to look at that, is that if a creature is immune to disease, is this spell worthless? Does it do nothing? I don't know, because it doesn't say that they're actually infected with a disease. It says you unleash a virulent disease on a creature that you can see within range. So the target must make a Constitution saving throw. So that's kind of a hit against it, because Constitution saving throws are amongst those physical attribute saving throws, and a lot of creatures have a very high Constitution saving, and they can make those saves very easily. On a failed saving throw, the target takes 14d6 necrotic damage. So we, as a comparator that we use a lot, is Fireball. Fireball does 8d6 damage at 3rd level, and if you upcast it to 6th level, it does 11d6 damage, which is less than this, but this is only against one target, and it's 14d6, so it actually does, it kind of compensates for that. And it does half as much on a successful save. The damage cannot reduce the hit points, the target's hit points below 1. So you can't actually kill something with this, but you can really mess them up with the next sentence. If it fails the saving throw, its hit point maximum is reduced by 1 hour, for 1 hour, by an equal amount to the necrotic damage it took. So if I do 49 points of damage to something that has 50 hit points, it now has 1 hit point, and that is its maximum number of hit points, which means that it can only be healed up to 1. So let's say it had 55 hit points, and I do 49 points of damage. It now has 6 hit points left, because I did 49 points, and its maximum hit points are 6, because it failed its save. Its hit point maximum is reduced by an amount equal to the necrotic damage it took, which is from 55 down to 6, which means if it goes to 1, it can only be healed up to 6 for an hour. That is horrible. Any effect that removes disease allows a creature's hit point maximum to return to normal before that time passes. Now, I would say because effects that remove disease allow that hit point maximum to go back to normal, I would say, as a DM's interpretation, or my interpretation at my table, that if you are immune to disease, you are probably immune to this spell. That it will not work. But again, that needs to be worked out between you as the player and your dungeon master. So get their interpretation about this, because when we go to Sage Advice here, there is nothing in Sage Advice, the Sage Advice Compendium, which is the official rulings for 5th edition. Don't forget that. There's nothing in here about the harm spell. And about that particular thing is, if they are immune to disease, are they immune to this spell? And I'm just going to point out again, remember that tweets of Jeremy Crawford, the game's principal game rules designer, are sometimes a preview of rulings that will appear here, but they are not official rulings. All right. So for players, what do I think are good, because this is only usable by clerics, what do I think are good cleric domains that could go along with this? You know, a lot of these cleric domains have extra abilities, but they don't actually work on top of spells or complement spells. The death domain actually does have a few things that can. So starting at 6th level, you've got inescapable destruction, and that allows you to channel negative energy, which becomes more potent. And necrotic damage dealt by your spells and channel divinity ignores resistance to necrotic damage. So harm does necrotic damage. So thus, if something were resistant to necrotic damage and you were a death domain cleric, you could overcome that if you were at least 6th level. There's not really a lot of other domains that complement this spell. You know, it is a great spell to use on its own merits, but with the death domain, that little bit just makes it just a little bit better. It might bump it up from a B+ to a B++. I wouldn't say like an A-. You know, that's a very situational thing that you're going to come upon that's not going to happen all the time. Now, because the Constitution saving throw is an issue in that a lot of enemies are going to have pretty good con saves, we want to figure out ways to mitigate that. So one of these is if you took a couple of levels of Divination Wizard. Again, this is a 6th level cleric spell, Harm. And the only other class that I can really think of that can get it at some point are Bards. And Bards won't be able to get the spell until 14th level with Magic Secrets. So you could take Portent as a Divination Wizard. You get the 20s. If you get a low roll on one of those 20s, you can give it out, and the creature will automatically fail its saving throw. Now, you have to be an 11th, well, for multi-classing. So if you're a wizard cleric, you will be able to cast 6th level spells at 11th level, because both of those are full casters. So that actually works out pretty well. So you could be technically a 9th level cleric to do this. And so if we look here, spell slots, determine your available spell slots by adding together all your levels in Bard, Cleric, Druid, Sorcerer, and Wizard classes, half your levels in Paladin, Ranger, and the third for Fighter and Rogue. So if you have more than one spellcasting class, this might give you spell slots of a level that is higher than the spells you know or can prepare. You can use these slots, but only to cast your lower level spells. So really you can't. So that means you do have to be an 11th level cleric to get this spell. So you essentially would be a 13th level character to get this spell, and it doesn't have an upcast ability. So I mean, there is that instance with the wizard. Now with a bard, again, you could use this spell at 14th level with Magical Secrets, but you could also add 3 levels of bard into this, so you're going to be a 14th level character when you can start casting this spell as a cleric. And you could use the Unsettling Words to give a penalty to that Constitution saving throw. So those are just a couple of ways that we can mitigate that Constitution saving throw on creatures. Again, you got to watch out for the disease immunity, and you need to work that out with your DM. Because it's not in Sage Advice, then there's going to be some table variation. Now, one of the big things about this is the ability to stop healing through lowering the hit point maximum of that creature. So if you've got creatures that regenerate, or creatures that do have healing through potions or spells or whatever, then you can mitigate that by lowering their hit point maximum. Now, for DMs, this is a devastating spell against players. And I would consider putting things in that could use this spell. A evil cleric that is, controls the undead and death, especially death domain. This goes perfectly with that kind of theme. And this spell is particularly devastating against those characters that are not proficient in con saves. And those are bards, clerics, druids, monks, paladins, and you got to watch out for the aura of protection, because the paladin can give everybody a bonus to all saving throws with that. Rangers, rogues, warlocks, and wizards. So there are a lot of classes that are not proficient in con saves. Now, why do I bring that up? Because, and this is base class, it has to be their base class. Because if you look down here, so if somebody starts out as a bard, they are not proficient in con saves. And then they take, say, wizard after that. They do not get the wizard saving throw proficiencies. Or if they're a bard and later on they take fighter, fighters actually are proficient in constitution saving throws. Bards are not, but if they start out as a bard, they don't get that. If they get fighter later, then they get light armor, shield, simple weapons, and martial weapons. So there is that. So you have to watch out for that. But again, you know, if there's a paladin in the party and they're 6th level, they're going to have aura protection, and they're going to be given a bonus to everybody's saving throws based off of their charisma. So harm in a DM's hands and enemy's hands is great damage, and it drops the maximum hit points of that character if they fail their saving throw, which is devastating. And then possibly a minion creature or an ally of the big bad evil guy could gack that player after this spell is cast. Remember, because this spell cannot bring something down to less than 1 hit point. It can't bring them to dying. It can bring them to 1 hit point, but if a big bad gacks them at some point after the spell is cast because they cannot be healed, then they go down. I mean, that's an instant 1-2 punch. Again, the disease immunity question comes in because there are some characters that can be immune to disease, like monks and paladins and things like that. Again, paladins can lay on hands to get rid of disease, and so they can bring back, they can raise that hit point maximum up, or they can get rid of this part. So, all right, that is what I have for everybody today. I appreciate everybody tuning in, and I will catch everybody later.